Okay, so we're going to get through chapter 7 in 7 minutes here. Here's our 4 big topics: right triangle trig, law of sines, law of cosines, and area of triangles. So first things, the right triangle trig. You're going to set up any right triangle, use any SOHCAHTOA ratio, and find any of the 5 missing pieces. Things can come in 3 different forms. If it looks like this first one here, you're just going to trade places with the variable, basically multiplying across and dividing. If it looks like this, you're going to multiply by 6, but if you're doing it in your calculator, make sure you do close those parentheses up and you put the 6 at the end, or you put the 6 at the beginning. You don't want to do tangent of 252 degrees. And lastly, if you're trying to find the angle, you're just going to do an inverse. Obviously, you're going to make sure your calculator's in degrees. You're going to get really funny answers with that. The only other things we do with right triangle trig was angle of elevation, angle of depression. If you're looking up, it's an elevation. If you're looking down, it's a depression. And then you can use, parallel lines and alternate interior angles to adjust that thing accordingly. Next is law of sines. Here is the proof we came up with again. But basically, here's the law of sines. Remember, we only want to use 2 of these 3 pieces, not all 3 of them together at once. It's on your yellow sheet, so you just need to know how to use it. 3 things can happen with law of sines. You get 1 triangle, no triangle, or 2 triangles. Here's a case where you will get the 2 triangles. If it's a 1 triangle or a no triangle, you'll know. You just go ahead and you solve it normally. The no triangle one, when you inverse it, you'll try and inverse a sign bigger than 1, which won't work. So you'll get an error. So there's no triangle that can be built. So here's a case where you do have the 2 triangles. So if we set this up with law of sines, and then you do the work in the calculator, you get 62.1. So the trick is when you inverse it, inverse signs are defined in quadrant 1 and in quadrant, sign can be positive in quadrant 1 or quadrant 2. So we can have 62 degrees in both of them. So we know we can do 1 triangle with 62 degrees. So if there's 2 triangles, we're going to go through, solve it the same way we would a 1 triangle. So if you find it 62, go through and just solve everything how you would normally. Now if it is 62, we know signs are positive in both 1 and 2. So it could also be this angle right here, which is 180 minus 62. Now you do need to check if you can have 118 degrees as well for this other value for C if it fits with the original 45. So 118 plus 45 leaves room for another angle for A. So you can't have an A2 as 17. So you can always do this check, and like let's say the C2 came out to 118, but the original was 70 degrees. Okay, so then it wouldn't fit because clearly there's not room for a third angle. Once you have those 2 angles again, you just set up same ratio again with your new value for angle A, and then it comes out to these 2 here. Okay, so that's the one that always gets us confused. Just make sure you check and see if a second angle can fit. Now you're going to use law of cosines for side-side-sides or side-angle sides. Again, you have these on your yellow sheets. The trick with these is once you start law of cosines, you need to stay law of cosines. Okay, because if you go shift to a law of sines, you don't want to get into a 2 triangle case because you're not sure which ones will work. So I know it's more places to plug in variables, but if you stay with it, you're guaranteed to get everything correct. Remember, law of sines, law of cosines, there's no right triangle, so you can't use a single SOHCAHTOA. So let's say you find 2 sides, you can't use Pythagorean theorem to go find that third side. Here's an example of a law of cosines where we're given the side, and we actually want to find the angle here. So plugging in everything's not a problem. Just notice how they set this all up. We had talked about taking this negative piece, moving it over here, taking the b squared and moving that one over there. So now everything's all positive. Make sure you're using parentheses correctly, like entering that in your calculator. Do it one step at a time and make sure things make sense. So largest side across from the largest angle, little things like that. Lastly is area of a triangle. This wasn't a big deal. We just spent half of a day kind of going over these. If we have two sides in the included angle, we can use these formulas here to find area of a triangle. And lastly, we did the HEROES formula. So this is where you know the three sides of a triangle. You don't know any of the angles, and you want to find the area of it. And it's that formula there. So if those aren't on your yellow sheet, you can go ahead and scribble those in there. It wouldn't hurt. But again, it's probably not a major topic that you're going to see on the final, but it's good to talk about anyway. So we finished that in just over 6 minutes. So not bad there. I probably owed you guys a minute for the first two chapters, so we'll review that in class.